Well, happy Friday, everybody. I'm Nick Slavik. I am the proprietor of the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of this show, Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my over 2 decades of experience as a painter, craftsman, entrepreneur, lover of the trades, colorist, wallpaper hanger, historic restorationist, to answer any of your questions. Now, if you're a homeowner, what have you always wanted to ask a professional painter? For pros, we can talk marketing, entrepreneurship, business, accounting, employment, all that good stuff like that. So today we have an awesome show. Over the last week or so, I've been experimenting with the new Dual Live feature on Facebook Live. And I normally do the PDCA Contractor Question of the Week, the Painting and Decorating Contractors of America. They are actually going to chime in live with us here today to personally ask the question. The PDCA is the largest gathering of some of the best craftspeople in North America and the world, and each week they send me a question, something that they think is pertinent that I could help somebody with, and instead of me reading it today, they are going to chime in live for it. So I see they requested to come on here. I think what we'll do first is I'm going to run you downstairs. We're going to take a look at, the guys are doing the final coat on the backside of some cabinet doors. So I'll run you down there. If they're set up yet, we can show you some fine finishing. We're using some Benjamin Moore Aura. We're using my Ferrari sprayer, the Graco Air Assisted Airless. And I tell you what, before we go live with the PDCA, Chris and gang there, if you guys want to hold tight, I will take you downstairs and we'll kind of do a job site walkthrough. I'm here on the big, beautiful new house that we started last week here. We are progressing through. Ceilings are done, walls are primed, and I have most of my other guys on a, you can see we did the final coat on some cabinets in here, all the boxes. Most of my other guys are on an industrial site today trying to make up for some time this week there. So we'll come down here, see if these guys are set up. Maybe show you some spraying. You guys ready to go?
Yep, right.
Okay. All right, give us a second here. They're just setting up. I can kind of walk you through the site here. I got one of my senior apprentices, one of my junior apprentices here, and we're ready to spray some cabinets. You guys ready to go?
Right.
We got the drying rack over here. This is actually, the room we're in is the home theater, to be home theater. You can see the little platform here that we're on. So why don't you guys have at her and make us look good, huh? Everybody always asks to see the shine, so we're showing them the shine here. Beautiful. And you noticed on that last pass he had, that's a little bit light there, that'll even up. Aaron, why don't you hit this? There's one little light spot there. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. All right, don't let me hold you up, guys. You guys progress. And I'll be through with this in a second here. So. Okay, you can see how on the last pass on that cabinet door he switched sides, and I'm very glad to see that because that's one of my pet peeves of these shaker style doors that have the flat panel. That guys try to get it from one side and angle the gun, and I love to see my guys go to the other side so they can angle their gun 15, 20 degrees and get that last little straight up and down panel. Perfect. All right. Way to go, boys. All right, so we have We had set up a spray booth down here. We had this beautiful, what we call a sport court here. This awesome room. This is going to be an indoor gymnasium here. Hard wall panels on the thing here. We had been using this as our beautiful spray setup for a while. But we were kicked out of that because the drywallers are coming today, so we are prepping ahead of them. You can see we're going to seal them off in here so they don't get any dust in our stuff. And here is our setup. You can see my racking system here with everything drying. We just got to last couple sides of those doors there to catch them up for the weekend. We're going to let them cure. Their backsides painted over the weekend. And then Monday we're going to come back and do our final 2 coats on them. So all the cabinet boxes, stuff attached to the house is done now. Then probably Wednesday of next week all the doors will get hung, and then we wait for this house to be trimmed out. All the millwork will be put on, and we'll finish the rest of that in place. So let me come on over here. I'll fire up the PDCA. They can join the broadcast here. All right. Get Chris on the line here. Okay, I sent out the request to Chris here. We'll see if he'll pop on real quick. All of your questions that you guys type in here,
What's up?
I will go through here at the end and I will answer all that stuff. So the great and powerful Chris Shank joins us live with the magic of technology.
Wow. I look a little bit more pale than you, Nick.
Oh, you're under that awesome office light. That's why I'm a house painter, Chris. I'm out in the field. I get that beautiful natural light coming through these windows here, not like this stale sanitary light in your office there. So
Yeah, it has nothing to do with me being super pale at all.
No, not at all.
Although I kind of do look angelic, I gotta say. It's almost a halo.
So this is going to be our first show where you guys are actually giving me the live PDCA contractor question of the week. So what have you guys found for me?
Okay, man. First of all, great job over there. That looks awesome. I think so. That's a whole new construction thing, right?
Brand new house. It was just turned over to me last week. First thing we do when we get in is ceilings, walls. Cabinetry just happened to show up. I usually like to do trim, doors, millwork, cabinetry all at the same time. But through experience working with these jobs, if something shows up and there's not a lot of contractors here, get after it because you won't get this much time later on in the project. So we're finishing anything that walks through this door. Or
Right.
As a friend of yours, Nick LaGrasso, says, if it'll hold still, I'll paint it. So
Nice. And a reminder to everybody that you're going to be doing a master's class on new construction at the Expo in February in Galveston, Texas. We're excited about that. We also have, we actually have some good education about putting industry standards in contracts. So that way, when you get into new construction, everybody kind of knows what's expected of them. And so anyway, that's pretty neat. See what's going on over there, Nick. Thanks for that glimpse. And we have the question of the week here from a PDCA member, okay? Here it is. Recently, I heard a paint seller disqualify an entire category of paint products based on poor quality. Products which he sells and I've been buying for years, which I think is brilliant. He says, I'm glad to get the information, but I'm dismayed to learn that I've been misleading my customers. I thought I was delivering the highest quality, but in reality, I was providing a substandard product. Any suggestions to avoid believing the hype from these manufacturers? Have you been in that situation, Nick?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, with respect to all of our awesome paint reps, they bring around a lot of stuff, and there's a mandate from on high that like, hey, this is new, this is exciting, we need to get this out to the painters, so tell them to use it for this, or here's the big selling point for this. And with experience and perspective, my new favorite thing on this planet, perspective, you can sort of gauge like, okay, if you're curious about coatings and you've used a lot of them before, you can sort of gauge where this one kind of lines up in there. And you can tell by the way they address it, the marketing that goes with it, you can tell. Are we dealing with a super high-end product here? Are we dealing with a property solution product? What are they trying to get at? Because the big companies won't put out something like, hey, here's something new. They usually try to fill a specific need. So you have to suss out what that need is. Is it quality? Is it price? Is it a quicker solution? Is it a better solution? So what I run into a lot of the times is I have this super unsatisfying answer of, if you're the best painter, if your clients cannot find another person better than you, and you're curious about coatings, this is really easy to figure out. If you're curious about, you saw the cabinet masters class I did. I'm interested in every single coating under the sun, especially ones where a lot of the industry uses. And in my shop, we do tons of experiments. We'll take a whole bunch of cabinet doors from the same kitchen, and even though I know there's probably not going to be an ideal result, I'll still do a sample door with it, because you learn a lot in that process. If all you do is experiment in the field and never have a problem, you're not doing what's right. You need to create problems so you know how to fix them, but you don't want to create them on people's houses. So tough.
I like that.
Tough. I mean, obviously price is one indicator. If you're using products under $20 a gallon, do not expect to get into high-end houses. Do not expect to have a whole bunch of glowing customer reviews. There are instances where there's sort of, blips in the matrix where there's an awesome product below $20 a gallon. And I've used a few here, but only as primers and only as things with a specific need. Price is one indicator, but also there's diminishing returns after a point. There are some super high-end products that will not give you, if a gallon of paint is $100 or it's $50, you may not get twice the performance. You may only get 5 or 10% more performance. So you need that perspective in there. With experience, you'll know what's good and what's bad, sadly. I hate to say it, but query, the only other best option I can think of off the top of my head is go to the 3 best painters you know or trust or understand. If you're in the market of tenement repaints, you're looking for price. The paint doesn't need to last long, doesn't need to whatever. But if you're going for a cultured, refined customer base, and you want to create long-standing relationships, you have to do a good job. Find 3 other contractors who you trust, who employees love them, they always pay their bills on time, they have a good reputation. Ask them what they use, and magically you'll find a really interesting through line through there. And with products, even at the Craftsmanship Forum, there's a huge difference between what that crowd of people, some of the finest craftspeople in the United States, use as a process and products, versus when you go online and see what the painters are using. They're 2 different levels of experience in the market. Some people have been around 20 to 40 years in that Craftsmanship Forum. A lot of the online stuff is 5 years experience or less. It's not bad information, it's just perspective. See what they use, see what the craftsmen use, and then you figure out what's right for you in between. So does that help at all, Chris? Do you think that might have helped?
I think so. That's a good answer. I like, because I think that some people don't know how to go back. They say the quickest way forward sometimes is go straight back. And so sometimes you got to just call it, and you got to say, look, it's time to change some things. And that means there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be some time to kind of learn a new product. And it's also an opportunity actually for you to say, I think that we're on the cutting edge. We are finding the new products that are out there, what works best. But I think that's kind of a struggle for people to realize. Updating is always hard, right?
Yeah.
And there's always between you and the next thing, there's always some work to be done. But I think it's worth it. It tells your customers and the people you're working with that you're working hard to be the experts, and you're willing to make some sacrifices to bring things up to speed. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's going to take a little bit of work.
Well, and
I like your idea of like creating that laboratory for experimenting and making mistakes and trying things out. That's work, right? You got to really have to put the time in to learn your product, and it's really, but it will pay off, I think, in the long run. But it requires being proactive.
Well, and it's the same thing I talk to my customers about is, if you're not sure about the color, I'll give you a free color consultation. I'll walk you through it. The only thing I won't do is samples, because I want you to have skin in the game. And it's the whole cheap insurance policy where you want me to paint your entire house. You're a little bit iffy on the color. A $5 sample quart of paint may make the difference between me repainting your entire house. And it's the same thing with these cabinet doors. I get so much kickback from people saying, yeah, but you can't charge for that. Or if you're not getting paid for it, you're not doing your job as a company owner. But I got a whole pile of free cabinet doors, actually from the contractor who built this house on another one of his remodels. He just dropped them all off at my shop, a whole kitchen worth of cabinet doors. And I spent $100 worth of quarts of primer. I spent a day of my time, and I basically solved the cabinet issue. There will never be another thought. I mean, as new products come to the market, I will definitely try them, but basically, I have solved that question. There is no open room in there. And all it took was a day and about $100 worth of that. And for me, cheap insurance. You know, as I go forward, I'm never wondering if I'm going to ruin somebody's kitchen because I've done the experiments. And speaking of the new master's class, I have a shop full of drywall panels, half mudded, half not, that I'm prepping right now. And I'm collecting the last bit of drywall primers and top coats to put through the same kind of semi-rigorous experiments that I did for the cabinet class. So look forward to that. I'm going to approach it from the same way. For people who've been following, I put a big post out there saying, hey, I want the same thing I just said about finding the people you trust and finding what they use. I put a post out there asking for drywall processes. What do you use? How do you use it? And hundreds and hundreds of comments. And I basically found the 3 or 4 biggest through lines. You know, who do I trust? What do they use? What do most people use? What do some maybe different outfits use? And I put together probably the 4 or 5 biggest, widely used, highest quality drywall systems that I'm going to put through the tests in the shop. So again, not getting paid for it, but what if I solve the new construction priming issue? For me, that's worth 20 years worth of sleeping well at night. So
right. I think it's back to the whole love your problems, man. Love your problems.
Oh, I like that.
And then you'll be able to move on and people will trust. I mean, like that's trust. I think there's a lot of people in the industry that trust you because you do that. And I know your customers and your community trust you. So that's pretty cool. Thanks, Nick.
Awesome. Anything else from the PDCA, from HQ you want to disseminate to the listeners?
I think that's good, man. I think we're excited to see what you're doing. I'm excited to see the rest of the show.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man. Hey, this is awesome. We'll do this every show now as long as you guys don't mind hopping on.
Absolutely. And the other thing is we also want to feature some contractors and their questions. So we want to see you guys in the field asking your questions. So we will have PDCA members that will be ready with some questions so you may see me from time to time on here. We'll have some other people set up. I know I think it's next week, we'll have Christian Melitello has a question for you. And I want to encourage everybody to send in your questions to the show, get them answered, but also from time to time, we'll open it up to where you can be on this. I know, Nick, that you've offered that to people to actually join you live, but it's a pretty cool thing, getting a discussion and people learn from you. So if you have a question, you're like, well, I don't want to take up the time of everybody, people will learn from you and they'll learn from you being brave enough to ask your questions. So hop on there and do this. And it's awesome. Thanks, Nick.
Hey, I love it, and I'm really looking forward to Christian and his question. Christian's one of the, Christian Melitello, he's one of the guys that I call when I have certain questions. So again, it's find the people you trust, ask them the things you need, and I can't wait for that. And along with the contractors hopping on for the PDCA question of the week, anybody else who wants to hop on at the end of the show and ask me a question live, or actually go live from your job site, show me something that you want some help with, or just talk. We're always here for it. So thanks a lot, man. I won't keep you any longer, but we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
All right. So I hope that helped. If there's anything that I missed on there, please let me know. And thank you guys for all the comments down here. I'll get to these sort of at the end of the broadcast here. I got a couple other questions I'll go through here that were sent through the week. Another one, a fairly urgent one that came through from the PDCA, I thought kind of fit in with a lot of this discussion on my job site here. In my opinion, the question goes, in my opinion, there's less competition for high-end work than there is for low-end work. Even so, there are times when a customer is swayed greatly by a lower price. Do you have any suggestions for convincing my customers to use my services versus the low-price competition? And this is something, in a roundabout way, I get asked this all the time. And I will tell you this, just like I said in the last question there, many of the most common business problems are solved if you are the best. If you know your coding science inside and out, if you got your processes down, if you are an experienced professional coder, you can slide into that business owner spot and a lot of the stuff goes away. If you know your processes, your employees, your apprentices feel comfortable working under you. If you're doing an estimate and somebody asks you how you handle this and you tell them I've done this 20 or 30 or 40 or 100 times, you can look them in the eye, gain their trust, and you know that you're being honest when you say this is what I've seen, this is the worst, this is the best. things like that. Trust. It's all about trust. When you're going after a different kind of clientele, and I want to make a very distinct difference between rich people and experienced clients. I don't go after people who make a certain amount of money. I go after people who have a certain amount of experience. These are people who have built a house or two before. These are people who have remodeled houses. These are people who have done a bunch of painting projects in the past, and they've had experiences with contractors, and I basically want to be then, they're discerning. They know what they want. A lot of contractors would not like to mess with these people because they tend to have a little more critical eye. They tend to suggest products or processes to speed along the way. And usually in the estimate, over the course of about 30 or 45 minutes, you basically have to gain their trust and let them relax and move the onus of the project onto you. All your apprentices, all your customers, people around you that you do business with, all they want you to do is solve problems and be trustworthy during the process. And that's all about conveying your experience, being genuine, never overpromising, and also, one other thing you can do as well is to initially attract them. That's after you get in their house. But, I hate to talk about superficial things, but the way your company looks, the way you and your apprentices look, the way they speak to people, how they speak to people, and the way your vehicles look, everything is going to be set up for a certain way. If you can imagine, a tenement, high-rise building builder versus a high-end custom, lake home builder. If you look at their marketing, you can tell who they're trying to market to. It's the same thing for your company. Besides just looking good, picking colors and graphics that look good, consistency builds trust. If your logo looks the same as whatever's on here, as what shows up on a van, is what's on your website, and all your employees have a uniform, tucked in shirts, clean appearance, logos, colors are consistent, you're unconsciously and sometimes even consciously building trust with all those people. So it's a very, very important thing that a lot of things you don't consider. Your people that you're doing an estimate for cannot see your past work. You might have some things on your website, but everybody puts good pictures on their website. It's like when people put customer reviews on social media, guess what they're going to be? They're going to be glowing, of course, because you control it and you're not going to put a bad review on there. You're not going to put a bad picture on your website. So helpful for the people to gauge what kind of jobs you do, but it's not a gauge of quality. When you take a picture of a kitchen from 30 feet back, you can't tell what the physical quality of the stuff is. So you as a person, your personality has to be consistent with that as well. So and I hate to say this, but it really does help if you love what you do too. It resolves a lot of these little issues. You don't have to coax yourself into getting in there and following the script and trying to sell and things like that. So let's see if I missed anything here. Timeliness as well would be a good thing. My experienced clients, as I like to call them, expect 10 minutes early is right on time, just like the old military standard. And in my opinion, how I found, I was not smart enough to set out and do this years and years ago. It just happened. This is the way I did business. But I've never, what I would call aggressively sold. I've never really even sold. I've always been very passive with all my marketing. My theory is always that if you put out a really cool picture of something you've done, you don't need to sell that to people, or you don't need to then make the offer. Hey, if you like this, call this number and here's some coupons and here's some offers and here's some this. I don't think, at least for my self-selected sort of group of people, that does a whole lot of good for the aggressive selling. Now, this fall I did do an example of that to break into some new markets over social media, and it was pretty good, but it attracts a different sort of clientele. So the way that my marketing is set up, especially for these higher end things, mid to high level areas, let them come to you. They'll seek out companies that they feel comfortable with. Do they buy their furniture at a thrift store, or do they go to Crate and Barrel? They may not know the difference. There might be the same quality furniture in both places, but Crate and Barrel looks like a place they want to be. So that at least gets them through the door, and then it's your sale or your job or your trust to make or break after that. So that's an awesome question. We can certainly expound upon that later. And I think I will leave. I got an awesome finish from Pro Finish Painting that I want to address about You're a small owner-operated company, maybe a guy or two. How do you know how to expand? And I think I want to give that some. I think I want to give that a little more time next week. I don't want to cut that one short. So, Pro Finish Painting through Instagram. Thank you so much for the question, but I will probably address that next week. I think that'll be a better one here, though. So, and the last thing, you know, two big kind of. I like the big macro kind of questions like this, and one of the kickbacks I get in the industry is that, oh, that's real cute, Nick. You paint still. I think that somebody who is very proficient with the coatings, with the processes, can alleviate a lot of the problems like that. Especially when you get into higher end, very tricky sort of coating jobs, complicated jobs. It's much easier for me to go down and do tenement apartment repaints than it is for the tenement apartment repainter to come up and do my work. One is a possibility. That's me scaling my quality and work to meet the specific needs of the job. The other one is not a possibility. They would get the job and they would immediately ruin it, and they would be out a lot of time, a lot of money, things like that. So there are a lot easier ways to make money than painting. If you're in this industry to make money, you have made a poor choice. Now, if you enjoy this job and you constantly improve and you're curious about things, it's very easy to do whatever you need to do to fulfill your financial, spiritual sort of needs in life, or fulfillment needs. And you know, if you're just here to make money, if you don't really care for painting, there are ways to do this, and I know a lot of successful companies that do that. But you know, we're trying to commoditize a product that is non-commoditizable. Every job I do is different. There's my personality you throw in. There's the personalities of all my apprentices, and there's the personality of the homeowners. So if you're the way that, you know, college would tell you to make more money is to systematize everything, standardize it all, streamline it the best you can, get rid of anything that creates any differences, and just produce one thing. Do one thing, do it really well, don't deviate from it. But that's not the world we live in. Every project I do is different from the last. Even if I paint one bedroom one day, one bedroom the next day, there are 100 variables that go into it. So if you're looking to create a paper system that will basically be a business that runs itself, this is a very difficult industry to do it. So you know, go be a financial advisor. You can make on the order of magnitudes more than a painter, and you basically just have 2 computers in an office. So that's sort of you know, my higher level thinking about this. So that's the reasons I give usually for, you know, if you're having all these sort of you know, common production problems, quality problems, things like that. You know, I've solved a lot of that. I shouldn't say solved, because nobody has a solution. Nobody's perfect. But through my own effort, it's something that I found that by human nature we don't want to give. We want to find the Google solution. We always think for finding apprentices, there's this magical website where they're all just waiting for us there, and all you have to do is find it. But honestly, it takes effort, just like anything else, and constant improvement. So I will scroll through here. We got a bunch of comments today. Wayne Kaufman. Oh, what do you use to spray the doors on? Oh, those are actually just used up rolls of tape for this one. In my shop, we use styrofoam blocks, or we use, actually, when you take sanding sponges, when they get used up, a lot of the times I will cut those into chunks, or cut the grit off one side and just use sponges there to kind of protect the backside. And with my finishing operation in my shop, and here we have so much kind of misaligned, weird, and nothing standardized, just like we talked about. I have a whole bunch of those things, and sometimes we use one for a tiny drawer front, sometimes we use, you know, 4 or 5 for a big door, and we prop them up in different ways, but we basically just want something to be completely hidden by the door, nothing peeking out the side to gather paint, something hidden underneath, and then yeah, just spray it like that, be modular, be quick. And on job sites like this, you would imagine we use a couple hundred rolls of tape, give or take, and we got a lot of those lying around. So adaptation. Tyler Hansen, thank you so much for watching. Pedro, oh, thank you guys so much. I do appreciate it. When this is done, Facebook actually translates this stuff, so I can't translate in real time here, but as soon as it's done, it'll translate it for me, and I'll go back and answer some of this. Darren Davies, are you putting oil-based paint through the air-assisted airless? Just wondering how much thinners it would take to clean it out. You know what? It's the only thing different about using an air-assisted airless as far as cleaning is the tip, because it's got a whole bunch of those little air ports like that. But otherwise, it's basically just an airless gun that puts a little bit of puff of air at the end. So really, it's just your standard, Graco 395, with a little more things here and there, but it's piggybacked with a air compressor to help, the airless comes through and it shoots regular. You turn that down so you're getting a little bit of tails, and then you adjust your air up to give it that one final little right at the end, that puff to help atomize it. So overall, you're using less pressure, less overspray. Kind of the gun is just a beautiful thing to hold, the G40. It's got a nice little whip on it, skinny hoses. So you have a lot of flexibility as opposed to, a big airless rig where you got the stiff sprayers and the extensions and things like that. So, but no, I am using Benjamin Moore Advance. It's kind of my go-to fine finish coat right now. I'm a huge lover of oils, the Impervos and the Pro Classic oils, things like that. But for most of the time for new construction, I find that this is the happy medium where, I don't make the other contractors mad by smell. We actually got delayed by a day here because another contractor here did not care for our oil primer smell. So I'm very conscious of, where to use it, where not to. For me, it's worth it to use some of these oils on job sites like this when I need a perfectly sound, non-bleeding surface that I can sand glass smooth. And you know what, if it smells a little bit, we got safety gear, and I apologize to all the other contractors. But for top coats, this stuff dries really, really quickly, especially on a second coat where the difference between like Advance and Impervo, on the second coat, the Advance dries even quicker. It doesn't cure quicker, but it skins over and dries to the touch. Sometimes in 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how heavy you put on it, versus a second coat of oil, which actually takes longer because there's nowhere for it to go really. So, but no, my guys clean out the air-assisted airless with no problem. It's basically just an airless gun, and we just use, probably 2 gallons of water in the shop to clean it out, and then charge it with thinner. Tristan Tripp, hey guys, hey back to you. Elisan at Amzik. Brazil. I love you guys. You guys are so enthusiastic. Sorry that I missed the Papo de Pintor show last night. I had, what did we have? We had wrestling, I believe we had dance, and we had Boy Scouts, and then I had a VFW meeting last night. So I love that show. And United States Painters, if you have never seen the Papo de Pintor show, it's basically Painters Chat in Brazil. They will have, I want to say they had 1,000 comments on their show last night, and you can see mine, I'll probably have 8. So the enthusiasm down there is something that we should all look up to for the trade. They are unbelievably enthusiastic about this. So Johan, thank you for watching. Ivan, thank you for watching, my friend. Always good to see your work and the Papo de Pintor stuff too. So Chris Shank, no problem, happy to do it. Oh, Dustin, good friend of mine from Vancouver. Hey, I get amazing furniture from the thrift store. What are you trying to say? I'll take you through a tour of my house sometime, and I have either made everything, bought it on clearance or thrift store, or I got kind of known as the old furniture guy around here, and people used to just give me stuff and I just refinish it in my shop. So honestly, I probably got less than $1,000 into the entire furnishings of my house, to be honest. Great advice as always, Nick. Thanks a lot, Dustin, especially coming from you, man. If you guys don't follow Dustin Zapanzik, he's a contractor from Vancouver. Look up Dreamscape Painting on Instagram, and you'll see some of the most amazing jobs you've ever seen in your life, most of them being new construction. So it'll really put your business in check, and it'll make you want to get up earlier and stay up later and make your finishes better. So, all right, Derek, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you from watching here, and thank you guys so much. Again, if you like this, you can follow me and get instant updates. The kindest thing you could do for this show and for me is to share it with everybody, spread the word around. This show, the highest realization of it is when we, like the Papo de Pintor show, get 1,000 comments down there, start some discussions, and I want this to be a forum for sort of the betterment of our entire trade. I want to trade. I ideas. I want to get the ideas out there. 2 years ago was the first time I had really ever talked to another painter. And in the last 2 years, if you guys have been following me on social media, the changes and the evolution of my business have been absolutely unbelievable. And all it is talking to other painters, people you trust, and moving forward. Take what's good from them, learn from what they do bad, and improve your systems. And overall, you know, it's not about how many trucks you have, how many guys you have, what your revenue is. It's about what are you netting, how's your freedom, you enjoying life, and overall, are you the best? Do your customers trust you more than anybody else? And those are sort of things that I keep first and foremost in my mind as different metrics. They're not easy metrics to follow, like 20 guys, 10 trucks, you know, 2.5 million in revenue, but they're probably more important in your life like that. So thank you guys for all the comments here. I absolutely love the interaction, and look forward to more awesome industrial site pictures and new construction pictures. And anybody who wants to hop on live with me, you make the request during the show, and you can answer any questions, or you can ask any questions you have. If you want to show me your job site, if you want to show me something that you've come up for to help your business, hop on there live, and we'll do it live together. So have a good week, everybody. Have a good weekend, and we will see you next week.